Good evening, everyone. My name is Westburn Majors. I'm a member of Harrisburg City Council, and I serve as chair of the Public Works Committee. We'd like to welcome you here to the Armory for our second meeting on Bill 3 of 2018, the proposed updates to the sanitation ordinance for the city of Harrisburg. This is the second in a series of 3 meetings we're having throughout the city of Harrisburg to give residents an opportunity to review the legislation, make any comments, or give us any feedback that they see based on the legislation, answer any questions. We have folks from the administration here that are able to answer any questions that you may have, and we will look to consider this bill when we return back in session over the next few legislative sessions at the end of June and maybe the beginning of July, depending on how the feedback goes and comments received, and if we look to make any revisions to the legislation that's currently drafted. But to give an overview of the legislation, I want to introduce Mayor Eric Pappenfuss, who's going to do a presentation, and then also have members of our Public Works Committee come up and answer, to give parts of the presentation, and then we'll be here for a Q&A to answer any questions you may have. So thanks for coming out, and we'll turn it over to Mayor Pappenfuss.
Thank you. And thank you, Wes. Good to see so many faces tonight. Thanks for coming out here. Hope you were able to find ample free parking, and I hope everyone can hear. A couple bookkeeping notes on the back table. People are coming in. There is a convenient one-pager, which you should pick up, which sort of summarizes the bullet points of what's happening. So please grab that. Also, I wanted to let everyone know that you may be seeing one of these on your door in the upcoming future. We've printed a series of glass recycling informational door hangers for each neighborhood, which lists where the closest drop-off spot to your home is, and we're in the process of distributing these throughout the city. And finally, just as a general introduction, I wanted everyone to be aware that we are proceeding forward with plans to eminent domain the current site of our Public Works facility there on Paxton Street to make it our permanent home for our Public Works facility. We discussed this just a little bit briefly at the other meeting. I'm just doing this to make the public aware. Council will have a full hearing on that issue before it goes into that process, but I want people to be aware that we are projecting our future home to be on Paxton Street. The purpose of this meeting is to tell you, give you a brief overview of the sanitation ordinance, but then to really take your questions and comments and concerns about any issues related to trash or sanitation in the city. We've got a great team. We can introduce people to take questions to you as we move along, but the decision makers are here. And I wanted to start tonight's presentation with a little bit of a follow-up on our last meeting. So if we open up our slides here, you're gonna see that we're gonna begin with some before and after pictures. We can go to the next slide. At the last meeting, people came up and they brought specific issues of illegal dumping and problem areas in Harrisburg to our Public Works team. We've got a great team. We've got wonderful enforcement folks. We're looking to strengthen that, but they've gone out and cleaned them up. And just to make you understand that it is not inevitable and that we can clean up this city, I want to show you some before and after pictures that our team put together. So here's the 1800 block of Market Street. Somebody stood up and complained about that at the last meeting. We were able to pick those up. We have a whole clam truck and crew that is able to go out and address these illegal dump sites. Also, very much in concern was the 1200 block of Swadera Street. It was a mess, but we came and we've cleaned that up. Here's the 1800 block of Bowes Street, filled with what looks like old carpets and things taken out of a property and not disposed of properly. Public Works came and cleaned that up. And Evergreen Alley. As you know, we're working hard to not only clean up, but pave many of our alleys in the city. So that's just a little sample. So if you've got issues, the people that can make things happen are here tonight, and we want to hear from you, and we will address them. I also wanted to summarize a few of the comments that came up at the last meeting so you know what was on the mind of other people. We had about 100 plus people at the last meeting, and there were a lot of good ideas. One suggestion that came up had to do with televisions and tires, and the desire for the city to potentially look into having a regular pickup or means of disposal. I did want to let everyone know, and you'll learn more about this tonight, that you currently can recycle televisions at the Dauphin County Recycling Center, and you can take tires to really any auto shop, and you'll pay a small fee, but you can get them recycled that way. But the request was made for the city to have a larger program. There was also a talk about our glass recycling program, which we can discuss further this evening. As you know, we're asking you to save your glass, and rather than have curbside pickup, we're asking you to take it to various locations throughout the community. Some expressed concerns about elderly, people on fixed income, people without cars, and there was talk that perhaps in the future maybe we could incorporate it into curbside pickup. The reason it's not integrated is because we do have to separate it. It's a separate stream, and by doing it this way, it actually gets recycled. It doesn't contaminate the other recyclables and end up in a landfill. It will actually get recycled. So we're doing it this way because that is the best thing for the environment, but we will consider alternative methods. Wanted to remind everyone about bulk item pickup. Right now, this came up at the last meeting, but you should know that on trash day, right now, without doing anything, you can put out a bulk item, piece of furniture, something that's hard to dispose of. That's already in the ordinance. That's not changing. So people should take advantage of that. If you put out a bulk item every time you have trash, it's a great way to it's a great way to deal with that. And then just wanted to address the feedback on the changes to the billing. We're going to talk about those changes tonight, and we want to hear your feedback. But we did want to say that there were some really interesting suggestions. As you know, there's a significant savings that will come from changing the billing to the city through postage and hours. And so the talk was, well, what could we do with that savings? Perhaps we could hire additional enforcement officers to go out. The savings alone would pay the salary of an entire another enforcement officer who could go out and deal with illegal dumping and enforcement issues. Or maybe it could help fund, say, a satellite treasury office. That was something that was requested and something that we'd have to consider, and we've got the treasurer here tonight. So that was feedback from the last meeting to set the stage for this meeting. And what I'd like to do now is basically talk about the ordinance, and we've got it divided into basically 4 sections. And I'm not going to give the whole presentation tonight. We've got some distinguished guests to give part, but I will talk about the enforcement part. The enforcement part is key to why we are revising this ordinance, and you should understand what's happening. So basically, in this ordinance, we're describing certain acts that are violations of the proposed municipal waste code. These acts include illegal dumping, improper disposal, excessive accumulation of waste, failure to source separate, obstructing the sidewalk, failure to register as a private hauler. Now, these are different levels of offenses, but all of these different things are potential offenses under the code. Now, the penalties are divided into 2 categories, one for serious offenses and the other for slightly lesser offenses. And the most important change is that we're creating this new category of Category 1 offenses. These are serious violations, and they can result in not only a $1,000 fine, which is this much more significant fine than currently we have on the books, but it could also lead to imprisonment and a fine both together. And in the Category 1 violations is basically illegal dumping. We all know what a problem this is in the city. The improper disposal of hazardous waste, the excessive accumulation of waste over 1,000 pounds. Imagine if you just dump a ton of waste instead of putting out your normal amount, and the failure of a private hauler to register to dump within the city. What we are trying to do here is to prevent disreputable contractors from coming to your home saying, hey, we'll clean out your basement, no problem, charge you a fee, and then they fill up their truck, drive around the block, and dump it on a lot. We want everyone who is carrying waste in the city to be registered and to display their registration, and we believe if we do that, we can help curb illegal dumping. So those are the Category 1 violations which potentially could lead to significant fines, and everybody should understand them, and we can talk about them further tonight. Then there are some lesser category violations, and for these, we don't go straight to a $1,000 fine and the threat of imprisonment. Instead, we sort of stagger the fine level for $100 for the first offense, $250 if you do it again, $500 if you just don't get the message and you keep offending. These are serious problems, but Category 2 violations would include failing to use a cart or to bag your waste, just simply dumping all your waste out on the sidewalk. Again, excessive accumulation of waste, maybe not a ton of waste, but under 1,000 pounds. The failure to source separate, obstructing the sidewalk or the street with your waste receptacle, interfering with our enforcement of our code, and again, the failure of a private hauler to obtain a mercantile license. That's different than the registry that we want you to show, which shows that you're hauling to a legitimate source, the incinerator. This is just if you're a business and you're not registering properly with your business. So those are the enforcement provisions that we believe are going to finally give Public Works the tools that they need to clean up the city, and I think those are the most important changes to the ordinance. Violators of illegal dumping and excessive accumulation sections of the proposed ordinance will also be subject to cleanup costs. So you can imagine what we're going to do is we're going to go clean up the waste, first of all, but if we catch you, we're going to bill you for it and fine you and potentially send you to jail. One section of the proposed ordinance will increase the enforcement of this code by allowing the director of the Public Works Department, Mr. Aaron Johnson, who's with us there in the Yankees cap, who will be authorized as a law enforcement officers to patrol public and public accessible areas of the city and to issue non-traffic citations for violations of the ordinance. So he's going to be able to designate codes officers. We've got our head of our codes department, Dave Patton, in the back, police officers. We've got our community policing officer, Blake Lynch, here as well. They can all now also cite under this ordinance. It won't just be our Public Works enforcement officer. It will become a team effort under the authority and designation of the Public Works Director. And he can also authorize other law enforcement officials with authority and jurisdiction within the municipal boundaries of Harrisburg to write citations and enforce the ordinance, again, including Harrisburg Police and codes. So if you've got a badge, you're going to be able to cite under this new ordinance. Okay, a second change, which doesn't have to do with enforcement, but I have to say is, I think, a very welcome change, and this is a change which is going to mean, I think, a lot of people are going to save money, is that we are going to be eliminating the currently mandatory minimum fee for a vacant or abandoned property. Now, some of you may not know this, but if you own a vacant property and you don't generate any trash, currently under the law, you're still given a trash bill. Maybe you own a side yard lot and there's not even a structure on it. You may still be getting a bill. Well, all that will be eliminated under this. New changes to vacant property. So what are we calling a vacant property? Well, we're calling a vacant property, pretty common sense, any building, structure, or lot, so it can be an empty lot or an abandoned building or a parcel of land, not legally occupied or inhabited. A reasonable person standard should be used in determining whether the property is vacant. And then there's a list of indicators that could indicate that it's vacant, including a lack of human activity, maybe accumulation of mail, a lack of utility services, which is a big one, maybe the fact that the property is broken and boarded up. So once a year, under the direction of our Public Works Director, we are going to certify your property as potentially vacant. Once it's been certified as vacant, then it will no longer be assessed or billed a fee, and that will be checked on a yearly basis and updated on a yearly basis. If during the course of the year it moves from being vacant to being occupied, well then we can bill you monthly for the remainder of that year and get you back on the rolls. So this is a very, very positive thing because I know many people really dislike that mandatory minimum charge. So basically, one section of the ordinance provides that the owner of a vacant property shall not be responsible for paying the annual municipal waste services fee, and the director of the Department of Public Works or designee will be responsible for determining whether that property is vacant. Again, I see this being a once-a-year certification process that happens sometime at the end of the year before our new annual billing procedures would go into effect. All right, so the third part of the presentation really has to do with recycling. And our current code is just incredibly outdated. As many of you know, the city used to be in the trash incineration business, not the recycling business. We've really moved quite a bit in this city to increase recycling. We've tripled recycling just in the past several years, and we have plans for a composting facility and other positive changes in the future for Harrisburg, so we needed to update the code. It should be noted that participation in the recycling program is free and it is mandatory. One of the nice things about recycling is that we don't charge for it. Even as the markets may force other municipalities to start charging for recycling, we won't because of the high price that we pay to dispose of our trash at the incinerator. We always want you to recycle if at all possible. It makes financial sense, and it's often the right thing to do for the environment. The director of the Department of Public Works will be responsible for all aspects of our new recycling program, including the preparation of all necessary plans for recyclable materials and the coordination of those plans with local, state, and federal agencies. And things may adapt and change. For instance, we may decide we do want to move towards curbside glass recycling. We may decide we want to add additional programs, or we may decide that we're going to be moving away from the current mixed stream recycling and have a variety of separated items in the future. It does depend, but this will give us the flexibility to do what we need to do to make sure that things are recycled when we can do it. Under the proposed ordinance, the director of the Department of Public Works will have the authority to promulgate the rules and regulations concerning recycling, including the pickup points and the routes and the types of receptacles. Again, maybe we'll issue a new receptacle potentially if we start moving into composting, which we have planned for the near future. The director of the Department of Public Works will also have authority to promulgate rules and regulations concerning the disposal of the recycling materials, the days, the routes, the operations, all of this. We're prohibiting the open burning of recyclable material in the city. That may seem obvious. And we're also providing for the development of our composting plan. I should let you know, we are about to submit our permitting and zoning requests to Susquehanna Township for that facility, and we will see. It is hopeful that we can get it approved this year and maybe get it up and running next year, and that'll be a great benefit to everyone. So we do have a new and exciting thing for you tonight, which is we are going to be debuting a new app, and this app is really wonderful. It's called Recycle Coach. And it will answer all your questions. If you type in your address, you'll be able to, it'll be able to tell you when your recycling is picked up, when your trash is picked up, when your street is swept. It will be able to tell you if a particular item is recyclable, and it will help educate you and connect you to Public Works. And to tell you more about this exciting app, Recycle Coach, I want to introduce first, very briefly, our recycling coordinator, Mr. John Rarig, who will then introduce our new sustainability director for the city, Christopher Nath. John.
Thank you, sir. Friends, thank you for coming out tonight. Really glad to see all of you here. Trying to convey something as basic as what goes into our recycling program, for some reason in the 21st century is difficult. We don't have a daily newspaper. We don't have really local radio stations. It's difficult to transmit even this simple information. But in the world of apps on phones and online, this has been made a lot easier. And this company in Canada called Municipal Media has developed this thing called Recycle Coach. Very straightforward application. As the mayor said, it informs you about all the schedules concerning trash and recycling and street cleaning, et cetera, including Christmas tree pickup. in the wintertime. And this is something I hope you will all sign up for. We have a little guide in the back for you to pick up. It's this little piece of paper. It's in Spanish and English, and it'll tell you how to find the app on your phone or on your tablet, and also just online on your regular computer. And it's a terrific way for you to learn all there is to know about waste in Harrisburg. And so I hope you all look it up. We'll be formally announcing this next week at a press conference, and we'll be promoting this to everybody, because this is a great way we can communicate this. Plus, we'll be able to update it and publish alerts or just new bulletins about what goes on with recycling and trash collection. So I want my colleague, Chris Naif, to come up here and talk about the details just a little bit. And I hope you'll give him your closest attention.
Hello, everyone. So as John had mentioned, we do have instructions in the back about how you can go about getting the app and downloading it. It is available for free on both the Apple App Store as well as the Android store. Once you download it, it'll ask you to type in your city to indicate where you live. It downloads the information for our current trash and recycling programs, and it will ask for your actual specific address to be able to upload a calendar, as it shows here, to actually indicate specifically what days for your actual address trash and recycling pickup is. There's more specific information about what time of day that cans should be put out, also information regarding yard waste collection and even street sweeping. But also for anyone who doesn't have a smartphone and can't download the app or would choose not to, that same information has been made available on the city's website. So if you were to go to harrisburgpa.gov and type in trash in the search engine, one of the first hits that will come back is our trash and recycling information page, which is right here. So all of these different applications are the same that are in the actual Recycling Coach app itself. For the what goes where, you can bring up a search engine and type for any particular type of material, batteries, televisions, mattresses, and it'll tell you exactly how to go about either disposing of or recycling that particular item within the city of Harrisburg. Also, as I mentioned, my schedule will actually keep a continually updated schedule of your own trash and recycling pickup, as well as any holiday disruption as if it changes the day, street sweeping, things along those lines. This also is an available tool, and it's in English and Spanish. You click right there. In addition, it also allows you to, there's a communication piece where at the bottom below where you can see here, it indicates report a problem. So if you need to try to let us know about any sort of issue that's going on in your neighborhood, or if you have any questions for the Department of Sanitation, then that's a way that you can submit that information directly to us and we can get back to you. You can put in an email address or a phone number in terms of the best way that you want to be contacted back with your concern. Okay. Also on the page, again, the link right here is to get the app itself if you go there with your phone. Okay. Go to the next page. And then this is John's.
Well, I get to talk some more. We've included on within the Recycle Coach website and everything. This is going to be a continuing thing. This is the current top 8 recycling and trash issues that we want people to be aware of. We have the current. We started recycling with a single stream about 3.5 years ago. It's worked very well, but we do have some problems. And for example, people like to put diapers in recycling containers. We want to discourage people from putting diapers in recycling containers. They belong in the trash. I hope I don't need to describe why, but for folks who like to think that what's in a diaper can be recycled, no, it can't. And we want you to put that in the trash. Also, a common rule, all food waste and food wrappers all needs to go in the trash. There's no exceptions to this, because the food has no place in the recycling stream. Folks like to think that white foam, styrofoam cups can go into recycling. Technically, it can be recycled. Realistically, no. Plus, and some people might get angry at me for saying this, but styrofoam, as it's currently made, is a wonderful fuel for our incinerator. So feel good about contributing it to the burning in the incinerator. One thing, we have a problem with trash cans in the city. When people put food loose into a trash can, animals smell that food. And despite the fact that these are very heavy-duty trash cans, squirrels and other things can gnaw right through the plastic. It's amazing to see what they do. So we want to encourage everybody to please put food and all other trash in plastic bags. Keep your trash can clean. Plastic grocery bags. Yes, plastic grocery bags can be recycled quite easily and efficiently, but not in our single stream system. They just get caught up in the machinery that is separating all the metal cans and plastic bottles. Every time you go to a grocery store in the Harrisburg area, they always have a plastic bag recycling container right out front. So please save up your bags and put them in those things that gets turned into plastic lumber made by the Trex company. And you can buy that plastic lumber and build a deck on your house if you care to. But please don't put plastic bags in the recycling. Now, on the subject of tires and televisions, these are things that folks have trouble getting rid of. Sometimes people wake up in the morning and they have a tire in their backyard or in their alley, or they have trouble with the television set. Now, first thing to say is, please don't put your own televisions and tires outside, because we will not pick them up. You know, tires, when you get your tires changed at a garage or a tire retailer, they charge a couple of dollars per tire to recycle it. Well, they will charge you a little bit to take tires if you need to get rid of them. So keep that in mind when you have a tire challenge. And also, but listen, we'll be straight about this. If you have trouble dealing with tires, if you can't handle them, if you can't transport them, please call the Department of Public Works, and we'll see what we can do. On the subject of old televisions, if you follow the news about electronic waste, you know that old televisions, you know, the big heavy tube TVs, they are considered hazardous waste. We are very fortunate in Harrisburg to have the Dauphin County Recycling Center in our own confines here, and they will take TVs as well as all other household electronic waste, from computers to kitchen appliances, and recycle it for free. And they'll take care of the televisions too. However, old TVs, especially the great big ones that we all bought toward the end of the CRT period, weigh an awful lot, and some people can't deal with them. Again, if you're having trouble with dealing with a television, please don't put it outside, because people will come by and, shall we say, molest them, knock off the back end of the thing and steal the only valuable material out of it, and it makes it incredibly difficult to recycle. But if you will call the Department of Public Works, we'll help you out. Okay? And also, another word about glass. We've been very fortunate to find a company in Allentown that will take all of our bottles and jars. We're only talking about bottles and jars, not window glass, not mirrors, not drinking glasses, not eyeglasses, just bottles and jars. And they come and take it from us. We just collect it in a big pile. They take it, we aren't charged anything, and for every ton of glass that we get out of the waste stream, we're saving $190. It's a really big saving, and it doesn't take a lot of bottles to make a ton. You'd be surprised. So we have 10 locations around town, for people to take their bottles to. Now, if some folks have trouble dealing with this, you can still put glass in the trash. And we don't want to inconvenience people, but if you want to help out, and a lot of people do, go to one of these 10 places. And we have a list in the back again. It's a description of the recycling and trash programs. And at the bottom, there's a nice description of where all these locations are. So please take that along tonight. And we're very proud of this program because we know this material is getting recycled for sure into worthwhile products. It's a really great thing, and it doesn't cost us much of anything. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Now, that was a lot of information, but if you download the Recycle Coach app, one of the things that I like about it is you can ask your questions of the app. So you can type in batteries or batteries recyclably, type in batteries, and it actually will give you a whole list of addresses and places where you can drop off and recycle your batteries. You could type in pizza boxes, and believe it or not, pizza boxes are recyclable as long as they're not greasy and overly soiled with food. That goes back to most things. Things can be recycled as long as they aren't contaminated by food. So the app will contain the information. We'll continue to get this information out, and that is a major part of the ordinance, is to bring us into the 21st century when it comes to recycling. Okay, so we've talked about enforcement. We've talked about changes to eliminate the minimum charge and a new way of registering properties as vacant. We've talked about changes to recycling, and now we want to turn to the final set of substantive changes for the ordinance before we take your questions and talk a little bit about billing. The goal here, and I'm going to introduce the treasurer in a moment. The goal here is to make certain efficiencies occur at the city, and then potentially to have the opportunity to serve you better. We can save hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars if we make this change. And to tell you a little bit more about the change, let me bring up Dan Miller now, our treasurer.
Thank you, Eric. I was out of town at the first presentation, so I've missed all of this. And I just have to say, I'm really impressed. It looks great to me that all the good things we're going to do for recycling and for cleaning up the city. And it just so happened that in our Treasury Department, we were trying to do things in an efficient manner. We've done a lot of things in the past 2 years. And I didn't know any of this was going on in sanitation. But in our own way, in December and January, we did a report and a study on the billing, on trash billing. And when I gave this proposal to our mayor, he got behind it and said, hey, why don't we combine that with what we're doing here and put it all together in one law. So that's how I got involved in all of this. And, and basically, as Eric said, we're trying to be efficient and fair in collecting our resources and trying to do it in the best way we can. Currently, we send out about 200,000 invoices a year. And I know plenty of people that get that monthly invoice, they never even open it up, they throw it in the trash. And so, because it's $32 and I think 34 cents or something like that, everybody knows what it is, and it's month after month. So, one way to be much more efficient is just to eliminate those monthly bills. And instead of having a monthly bill, we're going to have a one-time fee added to the municipal real estate tax bill in January. And that way we'll eliminate 200,000 invoices, we send out 140,000 pieces of mail, and then all of that money has to come back and be recorded in the Treasury Department so we can do things in a much more efficient way. And that is really why we came up with this plan. So there it is. And for many people, we think things will not change too much. Currently, 70% of our real estate taxes are collected within the discount period. So we think people will still continue to do that. And in fact, you're going to be able to get a 2% discount on your trash fee. So if you pay within the discount period. If you don't pay within the discount period, you still have probably until roughly May 15th to make the full payment. And after that, there would be a 10% penalty, but you'd have till the end of the year to pay it. And let me just mention the 10% penalty will really be relatively small, less than $40. So there is the one-time payment option, the way we do with real estate taxes now. For those of you who don't want to make that, or that's not a feasible way, we do have payment plans. So we have some payment plans for everybody. Okay, well, here's this, before I get into those, but these are the amounts. If you pay within the discount period, it's a $380 fee. The regular fee is $388, and with the 10% penalty, it's $426. As far as the payment plans, the city currently does have a payment plan for real estate taxes, if people are familiar with that. Okay. Yeah, thank you. And right now, you can, if you come in by the end of February, you can get a payment plan to pay in 4 installment payments, and you avoid the 10% penalty. That program is going to continue. We'll just add the trash total into that, and it would be the same type of arrangement. Let's go back. What is new for this year is, we do understand people pay the monthly fee. We don't want to make this in a difficult way, and we are really trying to be cognizant of everyone and trying to do things in a way that makes sense. At the same time, we're really trying to be efficient. So we do think the majority of people are going to pay when they pay the real estate taxes or pay in some single payment method. The other method is we will allow a payment plan of 12 monthly payments to pay the trash, to pay trash only, not for the real estate taxes, but just for the trash. So if you want to continue to pay the $31 every month, you can do that, and we have a payment program for that. We are going to, our policy is to require these payments, if you qualify, to have it be automatically deducted from your checking account. Now, I know everybody's not going to like that. Not everybody has a checking account. And if that's the case, we do have a way for you to opt out of that, and you have a form for exemptions from that. But our policy is, because we want to be efficient, we want to save money, we want to do things in the best manner possible for everyone in the city, is to try to require automatic payment on that. But we do have some methods for that if you don't have that. So, yeah, and what will happen is, I do want to mention this. If you do pay monthly and it's not automatic payment, you won't get an invoice every month. But what you will get when you signed up and come in and get on this payment plan, you'll get a voucher, and it'll have 12 payments on. Those are the things that you'll rip off and send in each month. So this is a way that makes it very efficient for us, but still tries to meet the needs of the residents in the city. And as was mentioned before, there is a big cost savings here. There's probably like more than $100,000. We have some direct costs of $70,000. There's a cash flow component of another $40,000. So we will be saving well over $100,000 when we make this change. I think that's the smallest part of this change as far as benefits. The other benefit is this will save hundreds of hours of staff time. And I think this is really important, because one of the things I want our staff to do in the Treasury Department is to be very responsive to the customers. So when you call into the Treasury Department, I want somebody to answer the phone. I want them to answer your question. I want you to give good customer service. This will free us up our time. It'll free up IT, information technology's time in printing those invoices. The mailroom will get freed up from paying, processing these every month. So there's hundreds of hours of staff time in the city, maybe thousands of hours, that will be freed up for us to do other projects and to give better customer service. So I think that is a really big benefit. And then finally, the other key part to this is, if you recall, the city used to bill for water, sewer, and trash. And we had a department that collected for water, sewer, and trash. And one of the things that allowed us to do that collection was in very delinquent cases, we could turn off the water. And obviously that would get someone's attention, they would then pay their bill. We don't necessarily have that mechanism to really force people to pay trash, and we do need to have have people's trash collected. We can't just say, we're not going to collect your trash. That causes all other kind of problems. In this method, if people don't pay their bills at the end of the year, it will get turned over the same way real estate taxes get turned over to Dauphin County. And when that happens, it really does get our residents' attention. We have a 98% collection rate on real estate taxes, so we expect our trash rate to also increase, and this could be between $1.5 million of additional revenue to the city that we can use for many projects, and I do think this is a really positive thing that's going to allow us. If you're not aware of it, our receivables on trash collection have increased by roughly $2 million in the past several years. So this is going to give us a way to really get control of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks to the treasurer for coming out tonight, and he's here to take your questions. We're going to move to the question portion of the evening now. Let me just say that I'm sure you have some questions about that specifically. In terms of timing, I believe City Council is looking to hopefully, after we incorporate your feedback, pass a bill in July, which would give us about 6 months to get the word out about any potential changes that will occur. As the treasurer just described, the new default will be annual billing. However, if you want to keep things as monthly, you can sign up and you can move to monthly, and we'll have about 6 months to sign people up and to get people ready before the bills go out in the new year. It's our hope that we can do a major public relations campaign, and you can look forward to that. So if you have questions about any aspect of the ordinance or about sanitation issues and trash issues in Harrisburg, now is your chance. So if you want to come up to the microphone, line up, we'll take your questions. Lots of good people here. I won't introduce the whole panel. I will make one note. I will note that our attorney down at the end, Ronald, is taking notes. He's already documented all the comments that were made at the previous meeting. He's going to continue to document them for this meeting and next week's meeting. And City Council will have all of this information when they have their public deliberations on what to go in the bill. Nothing has been decided at this point. This is a proposal, and your feedback is truly valued, so let's get right to it.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me, ma'am, real quick, I'm sorry. This is me right here. I just wanted to say something. The mayor, I just wanted to clarify, the mayor mentioned that the new default will be annual billing. That is the proposal right now. We have heard from several residents in the city that that could be an issue, and that's still something that potentially could change. I don't want anyone to think that that is what is going to happen. That is a proposal currently, and we'll see where the comments and feedback leads us. And as City Council deliberates, we'll be able to make that decision. So just wanted to clarify that. I'm sorry, ma'am.
That's okay. All right. Good evening. My name is Mrs. Joyce Vanderhorst Gamble. I'm the president of Camp Curtin Neighborhood United, and I'm sit on the board member of the YMCA. I'm also a community activist. I came in on the tail end of enforcement because there's 2 properties that are in the uptown area where the landlord has removed all the articles from the house and dumped it in the backyard. And it was 516 Emerald Street and 2134 North 4th Street. Meanwhile, the house is not occupied, so I assume it's empty because there's nothing going on. Meanwhile, it's almost a year and the trash has been accumulating and animals have been all over the place, and it's a fire hazard because on the 2134 is connected to 2136, and you cannot get out the backyard. So therefore, I don't know how you're going to handle this type of situation when the landlord, a new owner came in, emptied the house, and then just abandoned it. I don't know if he's paying his taxes. I don't know if he's paying the trash. I don't know. But I know that we, as the tenants that live next door to these abandoned houses that the owner, we've had complaints to David Patton. We've also spoke to Aaron in regards to it. He's aware of it. But I'm bringing it up to your attention because the next step is a petition or something, because we can't have this trash a whole year now. And it's been sitting there, and we've been making numerous complaints, and nothing is being enforced. So therefore, where does it go? We're tired of going back and forth from codes to sanitation. Somebody has to be responsible for this garbage.
Aaron, do you want to respond?
And we have met, okay? Our problem is, we don't go in people's backyards. And that's one thing the residents have to understand. Sanitation doesn't go in the backyard. Sanitation employees are responsible for that $32.34, that black toter. That's what they pick up. They don't go in people's backyards, okay? So we got the bulk program, the one bulk item per trash day. I mean, if you have stuff in your basement, think about it over the 1 year period, that's a lot of trash that you're putting out if you utilize that. Now, we also have special pickups. You know, residents can call us and say, hey, Aaron, Dave, can you come pick whatever, okay? We are here to be a big help to this city, okay? Your addresses are not just addresses to us, okay? I'm born and raised here first and foremost, so I'm very passionate about that. But understand, I only can do but so much. When those landlords, or when people buy these properties and they gut the house out and put it out in the backyard, I agree with you 100%. And anybody else that called me, I agree with you 100%. Our issue is we don't have the manpower to go in the backyard and get that. Now, that's why we're talking about this today. We need to have some teeth. It was once upon a time, which Dan just mentioned, we could cut people's water off and hold people accountable. Well, we lost that when we lost our water department, when they went, you know, right now, that's CRW. So that's why we're here this evening. We're asking you to adopt this. That's why we're asking for input from y'all. You know, basically want your input, but we have to hold people accountable. That's our biggest challenge. We also used to use work release when we used to go in people's backyard. Work release, they could go in people's backyard, put it in a pile, then we could come and pick up whatever it was there. We can't go in the backyard. That's our issue, okay? And you're absolutely right. Some places have been there more than 1 year, 2, 3. It is unacceptable. I agree with you 100%.
You got all the critics coming around and everything else. And then you have the children that are in there too. So therefore, somebody has to be accountable, because the simple fact is it's either the landlord that abandoned the building and you're not allowed to go in the yard, but somebody's got to be accountable. So why don't you make the landlord available and make him start paying for the note, giving him higher fines or something, because we have to clean it up. Now, do we as citizens have to go up there and clean it up ourselves and get truckloads of stuff and start doing it ourselves?
No, well, in our code, Dave Patton's back there. See, some of our issues is, well, you know, some landlords, we can't find them, but
Well, hey, Aaron, let me just say, because you did say you came in late, and I would say that's, yeah. No, exactly, but that is exactly what we are trying to do. So now, there is a proposal for a Category 1 fine, okay, which is now $1,000 as opposed to a slap in the wrist. It carries the threat of imprisonment instead of, again, a slap in the wrist, and they can be billed for the cost of cleaning it up. Now, we still have the issue of sometimes it's difficult to track down these landlords, especially if they are absentee and not readily available, but we now have the threat of a much greater penalty and much greater fine. And as you say, if it's a new ownership and they're around, then we can cite them under this. And I think they'll pay attention in ways that they haven't paid attention before. So that is exactly the proposal under consideration.
And another thing I want to mention, okay, if we clean the backyard up, okay, just like we kept at the property, it was the garage. Our other issue is we can't fence in that property because we don't own it. So that property owner come back, well, who told you that, you know, to fence in our place and all that? I mean, because if we don't, people still going to dump in that area. That's our issue, because the fastest we clean it up, the fastest these legal dumpers just dump this stuff. So if we clean the yard up, we have to have some kind of line of defense as far as blocking that area off so we can keep people from dumping in that area. So these are the things that we discuss. Trust and believe me, we talk about this all the time. I think we're really getting somewhere this time. So again, trust, I get so many phone calls with the same issue you're talking about. You know, and we're really working on it. We're working with Dauphin County now as far as trying to get work release back. Once we get that back in place, we'll be able to put them out there, and then our guys can kind of like, if you'll see our yellow truck with the extended arm, that's our clam truck. We use our loaders, we use type of equipment, but we just can't go in the backyard. But the other issue is, once we clean it up, we have to be able to secure that area some kind of way. So, again, this is why we have these meetings right now, and once this stuff gets on the books, we're serious about it. We really are, you know. So, again, I like when y'all come out because we need to really get serious about it. We've been talking, man, I've been here 20 plus, we've been talking about the same thing 20-something years.
Good evening, my name is Kevin Saxton, and I live over off of 15th and State, over that area. And by the way, all you guys' ideas with technology, that's wonderful. But we're here because we're concerned. There's the people that not here, them the ones you have to reach because they don't care about the neighborhood. So understand that I've just been retired maybe about 4 years, but I work part, but I keep my eyes open what's going on in my neighborhood. Kids like to play and have fun and this and that. I done turned in drug dealers. They say, oh man, you don't do that because they'll come at, look, I ain't afraid to die. It's like I bought that house when it was for $600 in the city. I fixed it up. I cleaned 5 houses up, 5 houses down the block. Don't mind doing it. But the issue is this here. The landlords who own these Section 8 housings, they have to screen people before they come with that, wherever they come from with that trash, get out the car, throw McDonald's in front of the house, or walk right by trash, go in the house. Trash between the alleyways, and when the wind blows, you wonder, well, I ain't put it out there, ain't my, but it comes to my house, it seems like, down in the area. I don't mind getting it up because I don't like seeing it, but I get it up. But still, it's all about how you talk to people. You know, I can't, you know, when I filed those petitions through the city codes about their trash or not enough trash cans, their trash is overfilling those, you know, things that you give us. I'm a single person. I don't mind, don't fill up. I'll take theirs and put it in mine. So, because sometimes, like you said, the city says, if you fill up that and put something beside it, if I'm not out there, they'll leave that. If that's the way you're supposed to do it, you know, but it comes down to those Section 8 landlords just let anybody come in their houses that they don't screen, and they just don't know. So I can't bump heads with them. I gotta see them every day. So I clean up and help them out. Hope they catch on that, look, that man shouldn't have to come up in front of my house and clean up in front of my house. So it kind of shames them. So, but in a way, you got some that just don't care. So them Section 8 house guys that own them properties, they need to be held accountable because them are their tenants. Just like if a drug dealer live in the house that he's renting, you can hold the landlord accountable because there's a drug dealer in his property, he's selling drugs out of there. Same thing with their trash. If Susquehanna Township could come up with ordinance to keep their trash, matter of fact, you go up there, it ain't nothing like Harrisburg, how are they pulling it off? You don't have trash all up there, the grass get past their ankles, you getting a citation. They ain't playing. And I got friends that live up that area. It's just got to understand people that can't afford these fines, but you have to check them landlords, who they letting tenants, you know. You can't just bring somebody who, we all need to help somebody that needs help. I understand with Section 8 housing, people need help. But our taxpayer money is going to somebody who only paid $50 a month for rent. We paying it all out of my tax for that, and I'm watching them just live like they don't even care about it. Bring that to a neighborhood that they see this nice, well, I'm moving this block out the house. In the months, you see how they live, like, man, where'd that come from? They don't appreciate it. They just like, it's like, wow, you know, it don't make no sense. So you got to go out to these sections. They getting that check every month. So,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
they getting that check every month. So don't say you can't locate the real, because that check account is going somewhere and it's through the government that they're getting for that Section 8 housing project. They get that check every month.
Yep.
So that Section 8, that guy who owns that property, he's getting that check every month. Make sure his tenants understand, look, if you move in here, you got taxpayers who still own homeowners that you see how they live. Don't bring that, or give them some types of how they have to receive that. This is what I have to know how to do if I'm going to live in this house through Section 8. Clean my trash up twice a week. When the trash man come by, you come through there, it shouldn't look like that. that, codes guy was in my block, and I said, look at this, what I'm talking about. Look at all that trash up there. He said to me, I quote, "The judge will not give me authority to give them citations for that trash." But I said, what? She wouldn't live around it. So I would like to know who her name is, because I was gonna come down to, you guys had this meeting, it was right on time. Because why shouldn't he be able to say, you know what, that doesn't make no sense?
So I think, again, this is what we're trying to do with the ordinance.
So we gotta stop it from the door, okay?
No, I agree. I
You-
hear
you got-
I hear everything
People
you're saying.
getting paid, but they don't care who they move in there, they get that check every month.
Yeah, so a couple issues. One, we definitely have irresponsible landlords in Harrisburg. There's no question about that. In addition to what we're doing with Public Works, you should know that over the past couple of years, we have really increased the size of our codes department. We're doing more rental inspections than ever before.
Okay.
We're trying to crack down on that end. When it comes to the authority to cite somebody for not putting their trash out properly, that's what we're doing with this ordinance.
No,
And-
trash around the property, like,
Sure.
they're not gonna act to clean an acre.
Just dump
5 minutes, they can clean out from the house, from side to the front, and
Yeah.
out in front of the curb.
So,
5 minutes, if I could do
now
5 to 6
could be-
houses within 20 minutes,
Yeah.
they can take 5 minutes and clean their own
Okay.
property. So, like you get that water bill every month, send them aside. You've been warned about your property, trash and leaves and stuff around your property. You got to be more appointed to,
Yeah.
around your property. Take you 5 minutes to clean it up.
I agree. Look, we agree with everything you're saying, but now, rather than just send them a citation, we're going to give them a big fine, and they're going to pay attention.
Yeah, go in their
And,
pocket, yeah.
and not only can Public Works issue the fine, but codes will have the authority to issue the fine under this as well as police. And so we can have a multifaceted effort to make sure that people do what they're supposed to
You know
do.
what my parents say, look, pick that piece of trash in front of the house. I didn't put it there. He said, I don't care, pick it up. So that's me for now. If I look out my door and I see it, I didn't put it there, but I can't just turn a blind eye to
Well,
it. 'Cause
we've
it don't-
got,
you know what I
we've
mean?
got some ways to make sure, first of all, we have the ability we have cameras that can be deployed. We have, maybe Aaron, would you like to introduce our enforcement officer and just address some of the techniques that we have right now?
Excuse me, Mayor,
Yeah.
with all due respect, but this comes down at nighttime when you sleep. You wake up in the morning, you hear that boom, boom, people come by.
Okay.
They'll pull over, throw the trash and stuff out. You wake up in the morning, the block wasn't like that. The block wasn't like that. On every block they got cameras?
Well,
Oh, you gonna put some there? You're saying that?
I'm not disagreeing that it's a problem. Another thing that we're doing is we're going to require people that are hauling trash around in the neighborhoods to show that they're registered and they're licensed. Right now, that would give people the ability to pull them over and stop them. But let's let our enforcement folks talk a little bit, just to tell you a little bit about what we can do and what we're doing.
Good evening, Howard Drayton. I took this post about maybe 3-4 months ago. I live in the city. This is a serious problem. There's a lot of things that hang in the balance. The mayor, Deputy West, Director Johnson has really tried to get us out there and making an initiative to really go after the filth in our city. I live in the city. My children go to schools in the city, and I don't want to be out and about and you guys approach me for not doing my job.
No, I would never do that. I would never approach you because I know you got a lot on you. You working. I don't try to give nobody a hard time that's working. Now that we're here tonight, I just like to say, if you're going to be a tenant and you're a Section 8 owner, the majority of it comes from people who don't own their property. It comes from people who don't care. They're in and out. They tear up a house and move to the next block. No, start putting a tag beside their name. So guess what? You have a big old section of Harrisburg where people just don't care. Call it no care section and dump them all in there. And everybody else can live in the neighborhood and got to worry about it. You know where they all at. Don't let them spread out all around the city just dirty. No, put them in one section. When they get that thing, oh, you don't care, go to no section block and just dump them in. Now, that's a shame because that ain't right because kids don't need to see. You know what I mean? You got to think about them too. But it's, you know what I mean? You got to make them be aware. You just can't live any kind of way when you don't pay no taxes and you don't own a home. Well, you just can't.
Thank you, sir. We do hear you, and I think we agree. And we will. The whole purpose here is to really be able to step up enforcement and to clean up the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Peter Marks. I live in the Shipoke neighborhood here in Harrisburg. Thank you for having these 3 gatherings about this. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Treasurer, Chairman of the committee, and to each of you, thank you for being here. The people in Public Works do a good job. They work very hard in all kinds of weather, are responsible for lots of different things and handling it and they do a good job, and I appreciate the work that they do. In the worst of weather, both in summer and in winter, they take care of things that guarantee the health for us citizens in Harrisburg. Whoever drafted the proposal certainly put a lot of work into it, and I appreciate that work. It's work that is not easy to do, but it's important to do and to get right. Just as public hearings are important to do to find out what, if anything, people think. In this proposal, it says that a commercial enterprise, a commercial taxpayer, a commercial user of these services is defined as any structure or part of a structure within the city used for commercial purposes or not used solely as a residential property. This includes but shall not be limited to businesses, apartment buildings with 5 or more individual domiciles, and structures that are partially residential and partially non-residential. That essentially, as I read it, means everything except a residence and some enterprises that include residences. Other than that is the rest of us who live in our homes. You who are raising your family here, we who are living here in our homes. That means, because further in the legislation proposal, it says that commercial enterprises have the opportunity to pay monthly. That means to me that corporations and other people have the chance to pay monthly and be billed monthly as I read it. Any of the rest of us that want to pay monthly have to turn around and specifically, and the word specially is what I believe is used in the proposed ordinance, to get monthly billing. It's estimated nationwide that people in poverty have at least a 20% unbanked rate, which means they don't have bank accounts, they don't have checking accounts. I take a checking account as normal. I pay bills that way, and I appreciate others who do. But I also have concern for those of our brothers and sisters who do not have that. In the city of Harrisburg, we have a very high poverty rate. Work has been a problem for some people, and some people, as they get older, slip into poverty as well. That rate of people would be ineligible for the monthly savings that you have talked about, the monthly payment you've talked about on non-commercial, because if your policy is you have to have a checking account, they don't have it, and they may not have the other means to do whatever alternative would be available. But what troubles me about it is it treats commercial people who have more than others. Maybe they've earned every penny of it, maybe they've inherited it, I don't know. But they have more opportunity. They have more computers, the ability to pay for things, and yet they get automatically, as I read the legislation, and of course it can be amended and changed, that's why you're having these meetings, turn around and then have the chance to be treated the same as others. $100,000 savings is not cheap. It's a lot of money, particularly in a city that has had its share of tremendous financial problems for a period of time now. And while at the moment we're doing okay, it would appear that in the future there could be some significant difficulty. I would want rank and file citizens in Harrisburg treated at least as well as commercials. You know, corporations, despite what some people say, are actually fictional people. They're not real. There was a presidential candidate who said corporations were people. They're not. They're in the law fictional people, and they're not covered by all parties about it. And I'd like you to look at that seriously, Mr. Chairman, when you consider this legislation. to see if the citizens can be treated as well as others. And in the penalty section of it, if someone would consider mediation, a system of mediation to be included in the ordinance, so that people who run into a problem have a way to have a conversation in which they can have confidence that they're being listened to and have the assistance of someone to make their point in a reasonable and functional way so it can be resolved, it might be helpful to everybody in the future. I think the quality of life for the citizens can be greatly improved in many different ways in our city. One of them is get trash cans out of the front of the house where children having a good time can just knock them over and have spread trash upon the street. I don't want to tell you I did any of that when I was a kid, but I certainly committed things that I shouldn't have done when I was young. I don't think it's unusual to say that children do the same things we did when we were young, which maybe we shouldn't be proud of. And I'd like to see them behind the house so that temptation is removed from children. And I appreciate everyone making the effort to do this, and I hope in the end that it is successful and that all of us, or at least as many of us as possible, are pleased with the result. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Marks.
I'd like to respond to you.
Yeah, Dan, I'll give you a sec. Just real quick, I just wanted to address the issue of why we weren't giving the same option to commercial accounts that we are proposing for residential accounts. Currently, under our system, commercial property owners are paying a significantly higher rate than residential property owners. That same can that costs you the $32, $34 costs a business or a commercial thing in Harrisburg over $110. And really goes up from there depending on the size of the dumpster and the frequency of the pickup. So we have a lot of commercial accounts in the city that are several thousand, if not $10,000 a month. So, a lot of businesses, commercial businesses will fluctuate. If you have a big apartment building, maybe 1 month you'll have more trash than the next month. Whereas on the residential side, everybody pays the same amount. So it could be argued that our commercial properties are actually subsidizing our residential rates in the city of Harrisburg. So I just want to note that for whatever it's worth. And then, I think the treasurer should address the issue of people without bank accounts. I think that's a very important question. I think he mentioned that they might make exceptions, but I think we should really elaborate on that issue.
Actually, I'd like to also mention anyone who wants our initial report before we got involved with this, give me your email and I can email it to you. And Peter, in this report, we treated everyone equally. We were going to have commercial accounts also billed annually. It was at the, we had some discussions and the mayor said, well, why don't we do residential first and then we'll phase in commercial. So there isn't a real, we're not trying to treat people any differently. We want to be fair to everyone. And actually, we do have a provision for that. If people don't have a bank account, they can still be paid, due monthly without the automatic payment. That's exactly what our proposal is. And other people, I really want to make the difference between a monthly bill and a payment. I mean, people will get one bill at the beginning of the year. Let's say it's $400. But they can still pay that exactly as they're paying it now on a monthly basis, 32, etc. And we are going to be very lenient on exceptions. So if what we really do want is people to do it automatic with the automatic payment, and we realize you don't have a bank account, you can't do that. Other people have other obstacles that will prohibit them from being able to do that. So we do have this exception method where you come in and we're going to be very lenient, especially in the beginning, this year, next year. But what we want to do is we want to move people to an efficient method. And as I said, 70% of our collections come in the discount period. So for a very large chunk of people, it should not be a difficult problem. And as far as landlords, we hear this about landlords. We currently issue about 3,700 landlord licenses. That is not the number of properties that are rental. We don't have that exact number, but Mike Hughes, who works with the landlords, he estimated about 8,000. So that would be about 1/2 of the people we're billing for trash are landlords. And those are the people we want to really encourage to make these payments up front or make them an automatic payment. And as far as residents go, we're going to try to be very cognizant of the difficulties and work with people.
Thank you. We're trying to encourage the people that have the checking accounts to switch, but if you're currently paying with cash, you can continue to pay with cash under the plan. Okay.
Hi, my name is Tracy Johnson, and I'll be real brief because I'm without my oxygen for all this time. But I'm piggyback off of what the gentleman in front of me was talking about. If you go to the annual and you're a renter or you're a homeowner and you move and you paid up front, how do they get their money back?
Well, first of all, I'm glad you brought that up. Currently, we do bill tenants at the request of the landlord or the homeowner, or landlord. That ultimately is the responsibility of the landlord, though, that bill, not the tenant. With this change, we will no longer be billing tenants. Only the property owners will get billed. So if you're a tenant and you're getting billed for trash, you won't get it anymore. It's the responsibility of the landlord, and that's who's going to be paid. If you are a homeowner and you move, it's just like real estate taxes. I don't know if you've ever looked at a settlement sheet, but if you've paid your real estate taxes and you move, you get reimbursed by the person who's buying it. That will just be included in there, so you'll get reimbursed.
Okay. Well, I am a homeowner, but I was asking about the renters, but now you're saying renters, because some renters, I do know renters do play trash.
They do now, and we do bill. That will change. We will no longer be billing any tenants. That's a policy change part of this.
Okay. And then my other question was about the ugly black trash cans that are in front of the house. Well, mine is definitely in front of my house, and I have a smaller one. But I've been in my house, I bought my house at age 2, because I've been in my house 30 years. And when I first bought my house, the trash can was out back. And that's where I would think a trash can belongs, is out back. And currently, if you were to change, and the reason why I really wanted to come to this is because I thought that was going to change, that you're going to say, oh, the trash cans have to go out back now. My trash can can't go out back because of what the city did as far as they cut off access to the alley that I used to use. So therefore, I would have to walk all the way down the street on oxygen. I'm doing good, all right, without oxygen right now. But I would have to walk all the way down the street, around the corner, and up my backyard to put my trash can back. So my concern is the trash cans are ugly. They do need to move, but in my situation, also things would need to be done because I know other people have probably been inconvenienced by fences that the city put in or whatever.
Yeah, we are not, in this ordinance, we're not proposing route changes. The route changes that have already occurred in the city. One thing to keep in mind is we do have new, more modern, larger trash trucks, and in some instances, they no longer fit in certain alleys in Harrisburg, which is why we had to arrange some routes when we got the new trucks. But this ordinance does not specifically address trash routes.
Thank you. I'm Hazel Trofer, and I'm just segueing from the last speaker. She asked whether if you pay ahead for a year, and earlier I understood that if the house is vacant, nobody lives there, then you don't actually pay for the refuse. The question is, if you pay ahead and then you move away and nobody is in there, how do you get that money back?
Well, if you mean you moved out, but you haven't sold your house, so you're not getting reimbursed by someone who's buying it.
Correct.
Well, actually, we haven't considered that, and I guess, talking with the mayor, there's an annual period where your house would become vacant. Is that correct? And then if your house were vacant, we would be able to issue a refund, but I think you'd have to go through that procedure.
Okay.
Currently, the plan was to have the certification of the vacancy happen once a year. But we understand there might be exceptions that arise over the course of the year, so we can look into that and work it out. If you sell your house, let's say you pay your trash bill up at the beginning of the year and you sell your house in July, what the treasurer was explaining is at that point when you sell the house as part of the settlement,
Right.
you'll be reimbursed by the purchaser for the second half of the
That part is
of the year.
understandable. It's
So
the part
what
of
you're
the
saying is that
vacancy.
there should be flexibility to move towards vacancy within the course of the year, and I think that's something that we can consider within our rules and regulations. So
Thank
I think
you.
it's a good point.
Hey, sir, if I may add, the one thing that we noticed, because our billing manager is here, when you move out, like you were saying, you have to communicate that to the billing manager, because we don't know if you moved. So if you moved out, and then when someone moves in your house, and you say, well, that's been unoccupied for the last 8 months, we have no knowledge of that. So it's the homeowner's responsibility to call the personnel that they need to call, so that we can make sure if it's a reimbursement is involved, we can do that. But y'all have to talk to, her name is Rosemary, but you have to, let her know that information.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tawanda Brown. I'm a community psychologist, and I'm also currently a renter at the 1900 block of 3rd Street, which I will be purchasing. And it's a 4-unit property. So in looking at the gentleman there disclosed the 5 units or more would be considered commercial. So how does that work in regards to the fees for the trash if there's my unit, which I'm going to continue to reside there, and 3 other units? So how does that work?
So you're talking about if you were to purchase it?
No, I am purchasing it.
Okay.
It's not if.
Well, you're residential, and the residential rate of the 3234 is attached for each of the trash receptacles that you have at the property.
Okay.
So you say there are 4 units. Are there 4?
It's 4 units.
Yeah.
There's 4 every.
Okay.
Yeah, 4
So you'd be as the property owner when you purchase the building, you'd be being billed the 3234 times 4
Okay.
each month, and then it would be up to you to. Yeah.
If she has 4 cans.
Well, that's what I just asked. She said she had 4 cans. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe you only need 3 cans, in which case you'd only be charged 3, but you'd be charged based on the number,
The number
the
of
3234 per can.
Cans. Okay. My next thing is I want to say thank you to Mr. Howard, because this morning I called down to the Martin Luther King building because I'm having issues with the tree trimming in front of that property on 3rd Street. So some branches fell down, and then the current owner actually broke those down and left those next to the root of the tree, and they stood there for about, I'll say 3 weeks before anything was done. And then I was adamant this morning, and this young lady here assisted me and actually calmed me down. And then as soon as I got off the phone with her, Mr. Howard pulled up like 10 minutes later, so I was like, oh my God, my angels, and he wasn't there for that. However, he took the initiative, and I just wanted to give you acknowledgement, that's why I stood here. He took the initiative to actually take a picture, call down there himself, and say, somebody come out. Not even a half an hour after he did that, they were down there and they picked up the compost. However, in reading your proposal, it says that there will be a facility. I, as the owner, would not be able to transport all of that wood because it was heavy to a facility. So how would that work when it comes to the trees falling down, because they're falling down all over the city, and me breaking the branches up, but not being able to transport them because I don't have a pickup truck and I have bad knees.
So it works similar to what we have now, except we don't have a facility. We have a place where we store our trees and our wood. But these guys are very receptive. If you call 311 and then ask and then report it through our ticketing system to Public Works, they'll take care of it and they'll handle it. So
Just do what I did this morning. Is
yeah,
what you're saying,
if it can be bundled, then you're supposed to bundle it and put it out with your yard waste. And everybody has different yard waste pickup times, and they're linked to the street sweeping schedule. If it's a whole tree, obviously you can't do that, and we can.
No, they broke it down to the proper measurements.
Right.
However, it wasn't bundled.
Right.
And again, I can't be lugging that stuff with my bag.
Right. So we have regular pickup times
Okay.
for yard waste, and if it's properly in that size, basically the yard waste is picked up along the street sweeping schedule, And if you get the Recycle Coach app, it'll tell you exactly when to put out your yard waste. But
I will definitely
if you know your
upload
street
that.
sweeping schedule, you can put out the yard waste at that time and it'll get picked up by the city. You can also call and potentially arrange a special pickup if you have a lot.
Okay, so my other concern is, even as a tenant, the bulk item pickup, because there are 4 different units. When there are multiple items out there for pickup and it's less than 4, they still don't pick all the items up. They say they'll come back the next week and pick it up, which is, I do the actual yard work, and it's acreage there. And it's a distraction, and it brings down the value. So what can be done with that, even though they see the 4 bins? You're saying the landlord currently is being charged for each bin. However, if it's 4 or less items, because it's 4 units, they're not taking the items. What can I do then?
Okay, before you leave here, you make sure you get my deputy director's card, my card, and
I
you
just
already
got
know
his.
how. Because our guys are supposed to be taking them, because you're residential. Each one of your tenants can put 1 bulk item out. That means 4 items out there. Our guys, again, we have meetings every Wednesday, but everybody don't have 100% good employees. We have about 87, maybe 90, that little 10%. We gotta make sure they do their job. So the bottom line is, make sure you get our car, you call us, and we'll go right back out there and pick it up, because
Thank
they're
you.
supposed to get it.
Appreciate it.
I'm Bee Gallatin. I live in the 2600 blocks. I just got a few questions here. I know I said John. John, are you telling me that we don't have to use those blue containers that we have as far as recycling glasses and?
So in terms of glass, we're asking if you can do it, to take it to one of the drop-off centers and not include it in your blue recycling. Paper, plastics, the 1 through 7 on the recycling, all that can go into the blue container. The reason we're asking that is because if you put glass in it, it ends up breaking down and it breaks down the machinery and it makes the recyclables less marketable. So if you take it to one of our drop-off centers, we can personally ensure that it's going to be recycled into new bottles right here in Pennsylvania, and that's a good thing.
Okay, now how are we going to address the people that don't have computers? You started it, but you didn't finish it, so I'm just asking, how do we address? Because, we do have a lot of people, seniors, they can't make it to the library, or they can't make it to different places. How are we going to address that issue?
So this could be one example of how we're doing it. Currently our team, at least with recycling, is going door to door in every neighborhood in Harrisburg. They've created different door hangers for each one. It talks about where the nearest place is, what can be recycled. That's a start. We are including information in our monthly billings, as you've seen, like you probably heard about this meeting because you got it in there. Those are some of the things that we're doing to try and reach people that don't have computers, and we're also, I think, we don't know what this bill is going to look like in its final version, but once we have completed this process and council has passed it, then we'll engage in a major public campaign to make sure that people understand it.
Now, if you have people that do the illegal dumping and everything, they tend to do stuff at night. Nights, weekends, when they know you're not available. Is that 311 number good for that, or what number do we have?
So if you see someone at night illegally dumping, you should call 911, which is you should. You're seeing a crime in progress, and I would call that. 311 it's not going to be staffed at night, so we would staff it during the day. And I'd encourage you, if you do see illegal dumping, to, if you can, assist the officers by getting a license plate or a good description of the vehicle. One of the changes, again, in the proposed law is that we're going to require people hauling trash around the city to display their registration as a hauler. And so we will have the police out at night, and if they see this type of suspicious activity and it doesn't seem to be properly registered, that would give them probable cause to pull them over. So these are the sort of things that we're doing.
Just 2 more.
Ma'am,
The other one is, I'm sorry.
if I can I just jump in really quick?
I'm taking all kinds of.
No, you're good, no worries. If you do see illegal dumping in the evening and you are not in a position where you're not hindering your safety at all, great, take those pictures and you can report that information to us at the police department, especially through the community policing unit. If that's something where you're witnessing it at that time, Instead of calling 911, we encourage you to call Dauphin County's non-emergency number. That is 717-558-6900. It's the same dispatch center, but it's not 911 tying up that line. So I just wanted to just clarify that, Mr. Mayor, just for that there.
I tried it, and she told me I had the wrong number, so I wanted to get that out.
I'd still call 911 if you're seeing an active crime in process. I know the commissioner feels that way. You should call 911. If it's not actually occurring at the moment that you're watching it or witnessing it, I think that's a little different, and you can definitely use the non-emergency.
Okay. If you do have vacant property and you're gonna send a proposal for next month of July, does it get backfit or is it effective in July? Can you know what I'm saying? Do they allow you, is it effective July 2018 or can you go back? Do you have vacant
No.
property?
So if you have a oh ma'am, I'm sorry, this is me, right here. If you have a vacant property currently, this is not retroactive.
Okay.
So it doesn't go back and say, I've had a vacant property for 6 months, a year, 2 years, and I don't want to pay the trash bill. When the new ordinance goes into effect, from that day moving forward is when we're looking to do the implementation. And I believe, and I'd have to double check the legislation, the vacant property registry won't be starting on day one. There will have to be a roll-in period for everything to become effective. So everything's really looking to start with our new, if we move to annual billing, any billing changes will start January 1 of 2019.
My last question is that I'm a product of the Citizens Code Inspector and Police Inspection. I think we need to invest in that again. That was an excellent program. It was under Mayor Reed, but we as code inspectors, I still have my badge. You could at least go ahead, you were in my class, you can go in there and just write people up. And people tend to see people that are in their community, they're not as defensive as just people coming up. So that's just my suggestion. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Hi, I'm Cassandra. I'm from the 1600 block of North 3rd Street. So I had a question about the enforcement, specifically with violation number 2. You mentioned a little bit about maybe cameras. I was just concerned about how the enforcement is actually going to work with that, with the violations, because I know on my block, it's quite frequent that other people put stuff in my garbage can, like paint cans and glass and things like that. So I just want to make sure I don't get penalized for someone else's actions.
Okay, so basically what I do is, if there's a move out, there's a lot of trash or a lot of things on your block that maybe the landlord didn't get to in an efficient manner, I will go through the trash and look for addresses, some type of billing, and once I find that, then I'll link it. I'll get in touch with Mr. Lynch, and we'll start an investigation. As long as you make a report and you can vouch that it's not your things, again, we'll go through it. I'll make an investigation, and once we find other material that's from someone else and not the resident of that address, then we'll start an investigation, and Mr. Lynch and our community policing agents will find those guys and definitely apply what we're trying to do here as far as the fines are concerned. That's why it's so important that we have the inclusion of the community. We have meetings and town halls like this so we can get your feedback. So the resident will not be penalized for someone else's trash.
So then I'm guessing then that if a resident was found to have stuff in their garbage, they would be notified that, hey, this is what we found. So there would be some sort of process then. That's my question.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It will be a process, and we'll make sure we update all parties involved, the resident and the culprit of the blight.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Rick. Thanks.
And I'll just address this because I saw these comments online and other people have been saying, you're not going to get fined because you don't recycle your glass. Our goal is to encourage you to recycle and to try and make it as easy and as possible for you to recycle. But if you choose not to recycle, that's not what we're after here with our penalties. What we're after with our penalties are people that are abusing the system and doing it repeatedly. Yeah.
Al Davis, Howard Street. When you're talking about giving fines, the lady that just left, what about when people are drinking, whatever, and you're the one that gets the aluminum in your trash can, not the recycle, then what happens? Because from what I've seen, we get fined.
No, you're not going to get fined. Nope. We want to encourage you to recycle, but if somebody sticks stuff in your trash can, and even if you choose not to recycle, you're not going to get fined as an average resident. We're talking about major abusers, illegal dumping, things along those names.
But it's not for the residents?
No.
Okay.
Not in those instances.
Okay.
Now, if you were repeatedly smuggling hazardous waste into your trash and you were warned multiple times, then it could become an issue. Sneaking televisions into your trash, and you've been warned several times not to do it. But not the average. Not just because you choose not to recycle or somebody else has put a recyclable in your trash.
Okay. The one gentleman spoke about landlords. Here's the problem. Even if it's a good tenant, bad tenant, the landlord can only control so much. And then once he says, okay, you got to leave, you're a hazard, you're creating too much havoc. Did you ever try kicking somebody out? It's almost impossible. Matter of fact, it is impossible. I got friends that got $5,000 owed to them because they can't kick them out because somebody created a way for people to stay in a house that they're not even paying the rent anymore. It's a long process, so that's a little screwed up. What about all this savings we're going to be getting? That's a lot of money. So instead of always starting another project, I would like to see the taxes come down. I mean, my taxes started off somewhere around $1,700 because I owned the house for 30 years. It's $2,500, I think. I never seen a decrease. I want to see a decrease if it's possible, instead of always starting some new adventure. Let me see, what else we got here?
I think that's an option, something to consider. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay. If there's a part that you see somebody doing something wrong, we all got smartphones. Some of us are dumb that got them. Take pictures. It's beautiful, beautiful. Call the neighbor and say, hey, I ain't going out there. Can you go? He's closer to you. Can you take pictures of him dumping? Easy. Like you said, write down what it is, because we got enough laws on the books. They just got to be implemented. Because sooner or later, it's going to seem like we're living in a police state. I watched a video once. It was from Canada. It was called Trash Police. What they actually did was they went in the trash cans and you got fined if the recyclables were not where they were supposed to be. Hopefully, we don't head down that road, because that was ugly. Enjoy.
You want to answer? Yes, sir. You want to go and answer?
No, we're good. Go ahead. Yep.
My name is Jasper Folks. I own a house in the city. Now, you say recycle glass. You want me to take one jar up to the recycle or throw it in the trash?
You have the option to throw it in the trash. We'd encourage you maybe to save it up. At my home, we have a little bin in the garage. We save up the glass, and when it gets full, I take it around the block to the recycling area. We've got 10 spaces around the community, including the Public Works facility, so we wouldn't recommend a special trip to recycle glass, but maybe if you keep it and you're passing by, you can drop it off.
Yeah, and I got another question. You saying citing people for dropping trash. What about the trash men on the ground, you understand, when they empty the can in the truck? If something dropped, they don't pick it up. Recycles the same way. They don't have no leadership.
Maybe Dave West would like to address that, because we do strive to have quality customer service with the cans. Yeah.
Yes, we have addressed that issue, and we are putting a camera system on all of our trash trucks. It's called a railvac system, where we're able to watch our drivers and their entire route in entirety, to take pictures. If someone call in to say that our drivers dropped trash on the ground and did not pick it up, believe me, They will be dealt with.
The ground crew too?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, because I see it done. But what can you do?
Call us.
I ain't no
That
problem
same,
saying nothing to
the
'em.
same numbers,
Because that's your job.
the same cars that we'll distribute, Aaron Johnson was the director, myself, and Howard was the enforcement officer. We will take care of that issue.
Hello, my name is James Robinson. Is it my turn now? Hello, can you hear me? Fine, fine,
Go ahead.
fine. Mayor, I was just curious about something. You said that when there's vacant properties, you put in a request to go after the owner and make them pay a fine and whatever. Is that true or false?
No, what we were saying with the vacant properties is that right now, the city assesses a mandatory minimum trash rate, regardless of whether or not your property actually generates trash. And under the current proposal, we are saying that if we certify the property as vacant, you will not receive a bill of any sort for trash. So that's a change. That's what we're saying with
That's in
vacant.
the new change, right?
That's the change. Yep.
Okay, okay. Just curious about this. A landowner, a homeowner that is responsible for the trash of the individual home, even if they're renting it. Am I right or wrong?
Correct. What we're saying,
I'm going to ask you this then. Instead of the homeowner being responsible for the person that's renting the house, even though it's their trash, why can't you just change it and put it on the individual that's renting the house from the homeowner?
Right. So what we're suggesting is that ultimately the bill is the responsibility of the homeowner.
Yes, but that's unfair.
No, I understand what you're saying. But if the tenant were guilty of violations, then the penalties and the fines for the enforcement side would be against the tenant, not against the landowner. So we're talking
Slow
about
down,
two
Mayor.
different scenarios.
No,
but
slow
okay.
down. You're
Yeah.
putting it in two different categories. I'm
Okay.
talking about one from the beginning.
Right.
The homeowner is responsible for the trash of any home that he owns. If he has a person that rents the home, the bill is still on the homeowner. What I'm saying to you is why don't you just put the trash on the individual that's renting the home?
So,
That's number one. Okay.
so sir, sorry, I'll stand up. For that, so if it's the property that you own the property, you are renting it to an individual, that property is still the responsibility of you. You're the one.
I can understand.
Can you let me
that.
finish, sir? I'm just trying to make.
Go ahead.
So if there is a fine or penalty assessed and it's on a property you own, and if it is sent to you as the property owner, you know the name, you know the property number. If it's one of many properties or a property you own, you can then go after the individual that you are renting that property to. Because at the end of the day, while you are letting someone occupy that residence, it is a residence that is under your ownership and your care. So if you want to go after your renter, then that would be on you to go after the individual that you are renting the home to.
Okay, are you done? Because I'm asking you the question that I just told the mayor. I understand that the homeowner owns the home.
Yes.
He gets the bill, or she gets the bill for the trash, okay? But I'm asking, why can't you just change it over and give the individual in the house the bill? I mean, the homeowner, when it's all over said and done, still is going to get beat up whichever way you want to go, through the district justice and whatever, running after the individual that's in the house. But I'm talking about the fact that why can't the individual in the house get point blank their own trash bill?
Currently, that's how it is set up. You as a property owner can make sure that the trash bill currently gets sent to the individual that is renting the home. We're looking to make sure now that the bill is sent to the property owner, not the individual that is renting. So if you have a renter in your home, a home that you own, you will get the bill, the $32.34. You can assess that to the property owner, the property renter. You can assess that to the individual renting the property. If there is a fine for illegal dumping or improper disposal, that would likely get assessed to you as the individual, as the property owner. But then you can turn around and go after the individual that you are renting the home to. You have that individual's information. As a property owner, they are paying you for the ability to
Wait a minute.
occupy that facility, correct?
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but you're still throwing it off from where I'm talking about. The change is, the thing is now, is exactly what you said.
Right.
The homeowner is responsible for the trash. But if the individual in the house is renting the trash, I'm asking, why can't you guys just take and send the trash bill to the individual instead of putting it on the homeowner to be responsible to go through this, since they have everything else to do? Explain that to me.
I think that's something we can consider.
We can consider
It's
it.
feedback, so.
Okay, that's all I asked.
There you go.
That's all I asked.
I will say ultimately, even now, if you have a tenant and they don't pay their bill, and then ultimately the recourse is to put a lien on the property. So you're still responsible
It's a beat
ultimately.
down.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
It's a
That's-
lot of
okay.
money. So one more, well, maybe a couple more questions. The property down at, no, the playground down on 4th Street between Minnick Street and Pepper, it has macadam on it, dirt and everything else like this, and it's all beat up. And I read in, I guess at the Burg or whatever, they're praising the playground up there at Emerald Street and a couple other playgrounds. But yet people are using this one down here on Minnick Street quite often. How come they're not cleaning that up?
Well, anyone can take that. I'll just say that we're trying comprehensively to address all of our playgrounds in the city, and that currently we're doing major renovations of 4. We've got a 5th plan for the end of the year. We've got a new one in the works for next year in Reservoir Park. So, and we have at 4th and Emerald and in several other playgrounds throughout the city, we've already invested
I
a lot
know.
in picking them up.
Yes, yes.
So
Yes.
it is our hope that we'll be able to get to all playgrounds in the city eventually.
Okay, Section 8 homes are under the city housing, right?
Well, actually, the Housing Authority.
Okay.
Okay.
So in those homes, since there's so many different people in those units, whatever, do you have security cameras in that area, or do you have nothing at all? Because I'll give an example. Between Minnick Street and, no, McClay Street and Minnick Street, from 4 to 6, there was an incident just a couple of weeks ago, and I asked the people up there that's running the show about, do they have cameras or whatever? They said, hey, after 5 o'clock, it's not on us, and we can't afford, and we don't have no cameras. So what I'm getting ready to ask you is, why can't the city put cameras in these areas that you know that there's quite a few different types of people and things are happening?
I think it's a good consideration. We do have some cameras. That is something we could consider doing. That's a whole nother
Man,
conversation.
I know, but it's
Yeah.
not like something new. This has been going
No,
on
that's
for
good.
years.
With
Need to jump
With
on.
regard to sanitation and dumping, just be aware that we do have the ability to access mobile cameras. We can deploy them. We can put them out.
Well, you're getting ready to get those cameras put in your vehicles now. Is that what you just said just recently?
Well, that's a different type of camera, yes.
Okay, but what I'm saying to you, if you're doing that right now, how come you can't take care of this problem that's going on, that has been going on in the different housing areas right now?
We do have them in hot spots. We just didn't want to play,
Is
show
that
our
what you
hand.
call
We
hot
we have cameras in hot spots in the legal dumping area, okay? So, because we don't have that many cameras. I mean, it ain't like we got about
Yeah,
500
but
cameras around.
if they
So-
can get you guys cameras to run around in cars, they can put cameras in units where they got.
Everything you saying is the truth, but at the same time, this is why we having this. Okay, again, we finally get ready to do something. Trust and believe that.
I'm happy for you.
Okay,
But then on
but we
another
do have,
report-
to answer your question, we do have cameras, but we have them in hot spots.
Okay, and then another request. The guy was talking about the trash cans that people, and the young lady was up here saying some people dump trash in their cans or whatever, and he was saying that you guys can go in and pull up a name and investigate and whatever. I want you to know something. If I have a can out here in the middle of this block, and each one of my neighbors decide to throw something in that can, you're gonna get it investigate 4 to 5 neighbors and claim that they all did this, in which one crank person could have did that just to get even with the whole neighborhood. What are you gonna do? Investigate the whole neighborhood and find them too? That's not even gonna happen. Let me tell you something. I want you to know, you need to be just, I think the trash mans are doing very good. But this thing of becoming the police officer and investigating and think you're just gonna do this and do that, you're just gonna create more problems. I don't agree with that. Okay, you realize how many phone calls we get on a daily basis about what we're trying to put some enforcement in? I mean, let me finish. I didn't say anything. I know the young lady spoke on about the ugly trash cans. What we wanted was uniformity because everybody was putting any kind of trash can out there. One, two, people wasn't using trash cans at all until we install this, put this in place with having a decent trash can that, again, where our employees are not getting hurt because we have toter lifts now, okay? So again, it ain't just about, the residents, it's about the employees too, because you have things out there, bed bugs, you have needles, you have all kinds of things that these employees have to go home and say to their family also. So again, the other thing is, if you notice when you go in the alleys, not only illegal dumpings back there, we work at 5 o'clock in the morning. In the wintertime, you can't even see. So you walking in all kinds of mess. Then you have homeowners that don't trim their trees. So now you got an overgrowth of trees out in the alleys. We can't even drive our trash trucks down there. So that was one of the reasons why we said some of these trash cans has to be placed out front. The other reason is when we have snow removal. Now keep this in mind, we got that 26-incher one year, right? Okay? So now if the trash is out back, because they're secondary roads, the primary roads is more feasible because we plow the primary roads. Then we can still get your trash. Because if it's back there in the back, it's going to take us a while to get back there because we snow remove the primary roads first. So there's a reason why we take a look at, not everybody's putting their trash cans out front. Some of them, if it's wide enough and the trees is, cut back or what have you, well, we had to take our tree crew to cut back, again, homeowners' property, so we'll be able to do our job in a proficient manner. Okay. So all we're saying is we need some type of enforcement. We have things in the ordinance, but we never enforce it. And you have to have enforcement to hold people accountable. Because I get tired of Miss Jane calling me, and she has every right. When that person lived next door to her, again, nobody takes their trash down to the incinerator. When they move all their stuff out to the curb. Their whole entire house. That's at the curb. But Miss Jane will call us and say, Aaron, can you please get this off the curb? This is an eyesore. She's actually right. But where's the accountability at?
Well, I understand what you're saying and everything, and like I said, I have nothing against the trash men because I've noticed they've done a real good job and changed too. Because I have confronted the trash person. This woman on one corner, she's like 70, 80 years of age. She'd put her trash can over on my corner for the trash man to pick up. And I'm like, and he was like, well, she's too old to. I was like, if she's old enough to move it to my corner, why can't she just move it in front of her house?
Well,
but nevertheless, to get away from that, I want to ask you one question.
But we work with union citizens too.
You have work.
I mean, what I'm saying about that, if it's seen somebody handicapped or senior citizens that can't actually take their trash out there, right. I mean, we do all kinds of stuff.
There's nothing wrong
all
with
we
that.
do
I
is
don't want them to sit their trash on my property.
What I'm saying, sir, if that's the case, like you telling me that now, if you leave, give me the address. No, it's first I'm hearing about it.
They took care of it.
But you give me the address, I will go to that person's house and say, man, we'll come get your trash.
They took care of it. You know why? Because I told them that I was going to bring the trash can out to you. And guess what? The next week, not that just woman was living in her house. She had kids living in her house younger than me that could move the can 2 blocks away rather than a half a block. So they just do what they do. But let me ask you something. Someone was up here just earlier, said that they have a 4-unit home with 4 cans. So that means that allows them to put 4 beds out there or whatever. One,
one
4
bulk
different, right? No. Okay. But are you going towards the trash cans or are you going towards the unit? The reason why I'm asking that is because my neighbors got 3 trash cans, and it's only 1 unit. So if they put 3 trash cans out there, can they put 3 mattresses too, and you'll just take them?
You say it's 1 unit, only should have 1 trash can, unless they request.
People borrow things all the time.
Well,
They
again.
didn't steal, they just borrow.
Well, on your trash can, We have that in our system.
I know,
So if
I
you want
know.
to see me after this, all you gotta do is tell me the address and we go take those 2 cans if they don't belong to
Well,
me.
you know,
Because it's in the system.
I've seen your workers come around and take cans and whatever, and they take one today, there's 2 more that shows up the next day. So, you know, they can't just, you guys got a job to do, you just can't run after cans, can you?
Well, we got 2 guys. No, we can't, but we
Thank-
have guys
Sir,
that do that.
let's,
do that type
why don't
of
we
work.
continue, we can continue this afterwards a little bit, but just know
Yes,
that,
Mayor.
let's,
Yes, Mayor.
there's a
But you
bit of a
will
line.
take care of the camera.
You've made
area,
lots of
right?
good points,
Thank
and
you.
we will absolutely be making note of them, and we'll continue the conversation. Good suggestions, thank you.
All good with me.
I've got a question about the hauling license. Now, a landlord is going to have to get a hauling license to take stuff to the incinerator that the tenants are leaving behind? We're not commercial haulers. We only
Yeah.
haul when we have junk.
We're
So
not-
why would we have to buy a license?
Yeah,
We already buy mercantile.
We're not asking, we're not charging for this. We're asking for a license so that we can make sure that you're legitimate in what you're doing, as opposed to people that may not be legitimate.
So I'm going to have to get a license to take anything to the incinerators, basically.
We're asking you to register if you're going to be
Right.
hauling trash regularly to
So the 2 other
incinerator.
businesses I already have registered as a construction business. I have to register my rentals.
Okay.
That's all got to be registered. Each individual unit's got to be registered. And now you want me to register my trash.
We want you to register if you're regularly hauling trash to the
Well,
incinerator.
who knows
We're
how
not-
regular? It's not something, I
Okay.
don't get paid to haul.
Well, we're not
I only
asking,
haul stuff away when
okay.
the tenants leave stuff
I hear what you're
behind.
saying. We're not asking a regular homeowner who goes periodically to the incinerator to register, but if you are regularly taking loads of trash to the incinerator, we want you to register. Let me just be clear, though, we're not asking you for a new fee or a new license. We're just asking you to register, and we're
So
asking...
there's no fee?
There's no fee, no. There is a fee for a mercantile license, which you already have, probably, if you're a business.
Well, of course, right.
But this is just a registration so that we can have some control over knowing whether or not trash is going to the right place. We'd ask you to display it, but there's no fee.
Okay.
Okay?
Another question. I'm a little curious, since at what time the definition of landlord changed? Because every time I hear about vacant properties and all these disastrous properties, it's always landlord, landlord, landlord. When you look up the definition of landlord, landlord is a person who has a tenant that they're collecting rent from. Doesn't say anything about vacant property owners. We all know who the biggest vacant property owner in this city of Harrisburg is. Without me saying it, we already know who owns them the most, okay? So, I'm sick and tired of hearing about how bad the landlords are and the landlords being targeted with BS from one end to the other. One thing after another, having to do this housing court. I mean, what happened to the warning process that somehow or another the common sense left the city of Harrisburg completely when it comes to, we used to get a call when someone would say, hey, so-and-so called in and said they got bed bugs. Are you evicting them? Well, yeah, they're being evicted. Okay, well, that's why they're, you know what I'm saying? It just, to me, it makes no sense. They are literally, all I ever hear the whole way around the board, and I'm not talking about up here because there's some real good people up here, okay? But every time we associate something bad with the city, it has to do with the landlords. Everybody says landlords, landlords, and the landlords are the only ones really that are taking care of properties. Now, we have the Hill as a disaster, and I'm driving down 3rd Street, and we got all these fancy curbs and little car protectors and everything else. Where'd we get that money from? How much money we spend there?
On 3rd Street, you're spending, millions of dollars.
$17 million, right?
No, but I understand your point. I
Right.
think we probably
Okay.
should not paint with a broad brush. I think there are a lot of really good landlords in this city, and
Over 95% of the landlords are good landlords.
I think they're.
They stay on top. It's not them. Most of the properties that are vacant are properties that were homeowners who, because the city became a disaster, their families, when they died, they walked away. When you've got investors that are buying properties, trying to you need to encourage investment in the city, not discourage.
No, we do, we
And
do,
that's a
we
big thing.
want
There's
that.
no, there's
No.
absolutely no encouragement. There's no value to this market anymore. We are chasing landlords out of the city. Guys are going into bankruptcy, they're walking away from properties.
Look, I would disagree and say that if we pass this ordinance and we enforce against the bad landlords, it's going to benefit everyone. It's going to make it easier for the good landlords to make a living. It's going to be a benefit to the city. But your point is well taken.
When you go bankrupt, if you had to pay the fines, the city would be bankrupt again if they had to pay the fines.
Nobody's paying a fine. No good landlords are paying any fine.
No, I know, but like with every city that the property owns, from what I've seen up there, almost every one of them would be $1,000 fine for anybody else. So, you see what I'm saying? Like they're around the board. I mean, I agree the city needs to be cleaned up, but we're putting an effort in like recycling and everything else. How about I bet you 3/4 of the stuff that's laying on them empty lots and in them houses and all that stuff is probably recyclable also, or good fuel for the incinerators. I think it's time to start cleaning blocks up and working together instead of pounding pennies out of the poor, because that's what they're doing. I'm sick of hearing that landlords make millions of dollars, because they don't. They do not make millions of dollars. It's impossible, especially in the city of Harrisburg.
We hear you.
Hey, I have two questions I forgot to ask. One, do we have a police, do we have a traffic division in the police department?
Traffic unit? Yes, we do.
A traffic division?
Yes, we have a traffic unit in the police department. Mm-hmm. Yes.
You could have fooled me. Now, another question I got about these trees in front of people's property. The people don't own them trees. If people look at their deeds and check their deeds, the deeds only go as far as their front porch. It don't go out there to them trees. But they're still, they gonna put the burden on the property owners. And the property owners don't know that they don't own those trees. The city owns them trees.
We're gonna
The city's
disagree.
responsible
I
for
agree
the
that you should check your deed, but most deeds in the city actually go all the way to the curb. So,
What go to the curb?
Go to the curb, that's right. So if you have,
The deed don't go to the curb. You read your deed.
well, maybe yours
Them
is.
people read them deeds.
Okay.
They don't go to the curb.
Okay,
No, they don't go to the curb.
yep, I agree. People should check their deeds, I agree.
Hi, Jason. Jason Glick, I live on Hummel Street. I just wanted to say I agreed with whoever from the other meeting brought up the broken TVs. I had a friend that collected a whole bunch of them in a van, took them to the recycling center. Of course, they were broken, some of them. They said, we can't take these, sent them to the incinerator. The incinerator said, we can't take these, and he called back and forth and went back and forth for a while. Eventually, I think the incinerator ended up taking them even though they weren't supposed to or something, but it's a problem that, I mean, if you can't take them to either place, then you got to do something about it. Secondly,
it's a problem. We'll help you. There are some new businesses that are opening. There's some legislative actions that are being taken on this presently. So stay in contact with John and Chris, and we'll help you with that issue. It is an issue for more than just Harrisburg.
Great. Secondly, I just wanted to say that Tuesday morning I actually did see one of the garbage men sweeping up after something that fell out of their truck for the first time, and I really appreciate that. I was like, wow. They stopped behind him in traffic, waiting for him to move, and I was welcome. It was welcome to have to wait for him to do that, because that's the first I'd seen that, and I really appreciated it. And thirdly, I wanted to say about the new fines, will they not have to go through the court system like the old ones where we seem to not be able to get the courts to cooperate? Is this just like an automatic thing, or how is this going to be better?
So it will go through the court system, and we do plan to meet with all the district justices to talk about this once the law is passed. And I think we've got a lot of support from district justices that live here in the city that also know this is the right thing to do. But I think we'll find strong support for the city's ordinance.
Thank you to everyone.
Good evening. My name is Bob Hawley. I'm a property owner in Uptown Harrisburg. First of all, let me thank all of the public officials here this evening, as well as the workers, management workers for the most part, for your efforts in trying to address the multiplicity of items that we've discussed this evening. I think it's time that we certainly need to become current in these areas. I do have a few concerns that I would recommend that you continue to look at a little closer, perhaps, before you finalize the legislation. As several of the previous speakers have pointed out or alluded to, I would suggest that we not necessarily wait to deal with the commercial and the property owners separately over a period of time, but rather both simultaneously. I do understand that the commercial industry in the city of Harrisburg do contribute significantly to meeting some of the costs that the property owners would otherwise have to bear. But by the same token, any successful commercial enterprise is going to pass along to the end user all costs that they incur. Otherwise, they're not going to make a profit. Secondly, I have a concern with holding the property owners exclusively responsible for the violations that are being addressed in the legislation. I can understand the billing, but I have viewed over the past couple of years in my neighborhood, as well as other neighborhoods throughout the city, where properties have been changed from single-family homes to rental properties, many of them with multiple units. And then what we find is that the renters don't adhere to the requirements for the proper disposition of trash and recyclables. And it's not fair, I don't think, to hold the property owner exclusively responsible and say, well, you're going to have to take action against the renters. They're the ones that are violating the rules of this legislation. And it seems to me that they should have more skin in the pot here. So consider that as you continue to take a look at this legislation. I would also, and I know the mayor has suggested that there has been some work in this area, I would certainly suggest that you consult with the judiciary, who are going to have to enforce these fines that are imposed and so forth. I don't know what the current policy is, whether each district justice is going to, or district judge is going to be hearing these violations throughout the city, or whether they may have one or two district judges do all the hearings for the city of Harrisburg in this regard. But it certainly would behoove the legislative and administrative bodies to consult with the judiciary in what their plans are, because this is going to be, as I see it, a major work producer for the judicial branch of government. as you do develop these fines and so forth to try to encourage people to comply, the workload of the judiciary increases. And that's fine, that's their job then, to take care of things. But are they prepared to deal with that? It wouldn't hurt to make sure that they're aware of what the plans are. And they might even have some ideas that you would want to take into consideration before you finalize your legislation. I think that's it for this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Those are good points. I do want to clarify, if the tenant is the violator, the penalty and fine will go against the tenant. It's not going to go against the homeowner. And homeownership really has nothing to do with it if you are illegally dumping or you're violating the law. So just to be clear, your understanding matches my understanding of how this would work. And I would like to, first of all, I'd like to thank Wes Majors. I know that Council President Wanda Williams was here this evening. This is a hearing of the Public Works Committee, which Wes chairs. He is the one responsible for coming up with these multiple public meetings throughout the community and insisting on sort of taking the council show on the road. That's not done in all instances, but it is being done here with the cooperation, of course. I also want to thank the treasurer for coming out and giving his PowerPoint tonight. We do have one more meeting coming up, but to close this off, let me hand things over to Wes and let you do the final comment.
One thing, recycling bins, the blue ones, we would like to see a top on them, because the garbage, once the recycling gets there, like the plastic bags and stuff, they fly all over the place. So I noticed like other areas in Harrisburg, the recycling bins have a cap on it. But in Harrisburg, we have no cap. That's another problem. Because when it
That's something we can consider. We'll do. That's a cost issue. And we do have tops on our commercial recycling bins, so we'll note that. Mr. Majors?
Oh, yep.
Oh, sorry.
My name is Jeanette Pearson. I live at 632 Harris Street. I'm retired, so I get up in the morning and I clean around the area. But we have a problem with our neighbor with grass. So I've been down to the city, filled out papers every year, went down there on the 8th of this month. They couldn't find my paper. They know who I am because I'm down there all the time. But the grass is so high, it's up to the back door. And they have a side door, it's up to the side door. So.
We'll get your address, we'll cite the property owner, and we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
Okay.
But the landlord told me not to go down to the city and report
Well,
because they were
you
sending
should
the bill
report
to
it,
them.
and we'll take the report.
Okay.
Okay? So don't
Okay.
leave without making sure we have it.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank everyone for sticking around. We know the meeting went long, but these meetings are important so we can hear from you, the citizens and property owners in the city of Harrisburg on these very significant changes to the way we do business in the city of Harrisburg. Again, I just want to note that our final meeting will be held on Wednesday, June 13th at 5:30 p.m. at the Scottish Rite Cathedral. That is 2701 North 3rd Street in Harrisburg. Any resident that wants to come, or you want to come again, or tell a friend and send additional folks out to that meeting, we'd appreciate any feedback that we do receive, or we can receive from you. If folks aren't able to attend meetings, they can email any one of us. They can email myself, our city clerk. My email address is on the website, but if you don't have it, it is wmajors@harrisburgpa.gov. You can also reach out to our Public Works Director, the Mayor's Office, so we can get your feedback on these changes to the ordinance. We will be holding a meeting likely, well, after the next meeting, we'll determine based on the feedback we receive when we plan to hold the next meeting. It will either be the last meeting in June or the first meeting in July. It really depends on how much feedback we are receiving from individuals and changes that we look to propose. So once again, I want to thank you, the residents. I want to thank our city employees that came out here, and once again, thank you to the mayor for participating and being a part of this process, and hope you all have a good evening. Thanks.